It is foggy out this morning. I brought the wide lens today. I'd probably say on accident, or maybe like not meaningfully. Come on, pal. I think I just saw the long barrel of the lens on the camera, so I figured it was the long lens. When I took my first photo, I realized it wasn't. You can see the lake is still pretty well coated with snow. I don't know how much of that is ice anymore. I think we're supposed to get up into the 40s, mid 40s today. Yeah, like that long lens right here would be nice. So I can get a little closer to the top of the building there. Otherwise, you just lose the focal point of it, of the photo. There's a tree in Central Park. It's over by the Great Lawn, the south side of the Great Lawn, right by the Romeo and Juliet building. That's bright red, or becomes bright red. It's really cool with the snow on the ground. I'm not headed that direction today. I'm headed south towards 59th Street, not all the way down to 59th Street. But given the wackiness of this week's news, right? I think earlier this week was the recognition of Russia's invasion in Ukraine, or the start of Russia's invasion in Ukraine. I think at the same time, there was a park bench in Central Park that was dedicated to Alexei Navalny, the Russian dissident. And I don't know the date that it was inaugurated or celebrated. It's up on 96th Street on the west side of the park. I might walk up there later, maybe tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know the date or the recognition date that it was inaugurated. I'm pretty sure that it was this week. Maybe it was last week. It was in February at some point. I think there was a moment of silence or a moment of celebration. So you have that, and then you wake up this Saturday to news that America is now attacking Iran. Which, you know, call it what you want, but when you're lobbing bombs into another country, I would imagine that's pretty much considered an act of war. For whichever reason you might want to decide It's happening. I was looking for influences, like Persian, Iranian influences, specifically in the park. Maybe there was like a, Persian or a bust of a Persian king at some point. Or maybe there was a plaque commemorating the Iranian Revolution. There's nothing in the park. I think there's some Iranian kind of restaurants up in the Upper West Side. You couldn't really find anything in the park. And the same thing with the Soviet Union, Russia, and Ukraine. Outside of the related Navalny bench, there wasn't really much here. Anyway, I always take this photo, kind of like the one of those Midtown buildings. What I did find generally was how New Yorkers respond and support anti-war efforts, actions. And I learned that, probably is no surprise, Central Park was a good staging area and sometimes, conclusion to marches, protests in the city. Really, I think up and through the 80s and 90s with the attack on Iraq by America. People would come here, they would build their signs, they would listen to, protest leaders. Then they would head off into whatever the direction was. A lot of times it was on the east side to the United Nations building. I think it's like in the 50s and 40s on the far east side. It's kind of a cool shot. I wish that lamp on the left was a little more brighter. But this area here, just Sheep Meadow, was one of those staging areas. I think like tens of thousands of people would come here and then head off to their marching destinations. I think if there's anything interesting I was reading was that Central Park in general, like in the park, not on the outskirts of the park, but in the park, is generally off limits to these large political gatherings. And part of it was because the residents of New York and probably the folks around Central Park that use the park the most argued that Central Park should be free of these heavy political conversations and political topics. Okay, I think that statue over there is another one we'll go visit. So there's that general thought that Central Park is, for peace. It's a relaxing spot. It's a place to get away from things in a otherwise, right, crazy Manhattan, New York City world. And you throw politics on top of it, it kind of ruins it. I think the other two reasons I read, which are probably a little more plausible, one was that humans are dirty people, just leaving trash everywhere, and not necessarily on purpose, but like probably scuffing the grass in Sheep Meadow, so it was just very trashy and probably not a lot of fun to be around. Can I get over there? Yeah, you can get over there. And then I think the other part of it was, who cleans all that stuff up? Right? Who pays for the cleanup? Who pays for the police security during these events? And I don't think there was any kind of corporate sponsorships that really wanted to support any kind of political things. So I think the Central Park or City of New York raised the cost of holding events here. You need permits. So it was a big drag on things. And then people just kind of moved to the outskirts of the park to plan some of these events. Okay, this guy, the 7th Regiment Memorial of 1861 and 1865. And then I think there's some Latin pro Pateria et Gloria. That's on the front. Let's see if there's anything in the back here or on the sides. Okay. On one side, in honor of the members of the 7th Regiment, 58. It's kind of like faded out with time. The 7th Regiment National Guardian. Yeah, and it still has the Latin plaque on the bottom. So you can probably hear the snow still a little crunchy. In honor of the members of the 7th Regiment in GSNY, 58 in number, who gave their lives in defense of the Union 1861 to 1865. So I think Abraham Lincoln made a call out for volunteers to join the Union. And this monument is in recognition of those who heeded that call for volunteers. And then specifically 58, this recognizes the 58 troops who lost their lives supporting the Union in the Civil War. I think I'll probably have to lighten that up a little bit, but it's more or less, I think it was depicted off of one of the soldiers, although it represents all soldiers. I think he's leaning against like a rifle or some sort of artillery. Not sure why they decided for him to look, what is that, southeast? Maybe he's looking at Maduro. I think Jerry Seinfeld had it right. War, what is it good for? We'll walk up this way, come back around Tavern on the Green, and then head back up. And then we'll duck back inside the park on 72nd. We'll go by the Imagine plaque or memorial. And I was reading that there's actually a plaque that lists all 120 organizations or countries that helped support in building the Strawberry Field and plaque area. I haven't seen that before, so I'm going to try to find that one too. It's a little before 7. I think the sunrise is supposed to be at 6:30-ish. Morning. As you can see, this is all like Sheep Meadow here. So fitting 10, 20, 40,000 people in there probably isn't a problem. Also, I have to imagine that a lot of the people that were protesting the wars were, kind of quote unquote hippies. And the hippie stigma probably applied to some of those folks. I would imagine that probably made the cancellation of organizing. I just like the color of these buildings. The cancellation of those protests in the park a little bit easier too. I don't mean to generalize. And I certainly was not a hippie or of that time. Having said that, their focus was probably more on protesting than it was cleanliness. Maybe. I've gone all this time of not using the long lens, and now I'm complaining that I don't have the long lens. So did we pop out at 66th here? Apparently there's a restaurant that dates back to like the early 20th century at 167th that closed, called Cafe Leopard or something. Before that, it was part of a art renaissance. Some like famous artists went there. I think it was part of a hotel. So they probably lived and then had cafe items there. Let's go take a quick peek. Okay, so that's 2 West 67th on that side. It's got to be over here on the right. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend how to pronounce that hotel there, but that's actually where the cafe was. You get closed the middle of February. The Leopard Restaurant Delivery and Service Entrance. Yeah, the Leopard. 1 West 67th. I bet it was nice. Huh. an announcement that they've closed and to go visit their other restaurants in Midtown. So this is 67th. It's recycling day. If you were to walk all the way down 67th, you'd more or less run into Lincoln Center, which we should definitely do sometime. We're gonna make that a long journey and go up through the park tomorrow morning, go early. We'll go through the Great Lawns, maybe that red tree is there. And then maybe do a walk around the Jackie O Reservoir. And then maybe cut across 96th. And check out the Navalny bench. Maybe just do a morning stroll down the west side. Maybe end up over at the Lincoln Center. Yeah, I'd be surprised to see most of the snow still here tomorrow, at least on the sidewalks and the streets. Some of it will definitely still be there. I think a lot of it will be gone. We have to figure that the subways go down here, so it's always going to be warm. And then you add in 40-degree weather. Looks like some of the clouds are breaking, so it'll be nice and sunny. Hey, look at that, a green tree. A broken green tree. Yeah, so the Strawberry Fields area is the Imagine plaque from John Lennon of the Beatles. So he lived across the street at Central Park West and 72nd in the Dakota building. And if I remember right, Imagine was the official, non-official song of the Cold War. I was trying to see if there was a connection with Sting and the Police with their song Russians. More green. I need to time it right. Might even be able to see these buildings lit up with the diffused morning light with the fog. Hey, another green tree. Yeah, you can hear the subway or the train down on the subway. Okay, that's the Dakota building right there on the corner. This is 71st and 72nd. Just do a quick walk over there. It is usually crowded with tourists and like vendors selling New York and John Lennon stuff. I'm sure all legal. And during the summer, there's like slushies, and it's kind of a cool, festive environment. There's usually someone playing certainly Imagine and other John Lennon songs. I think last time we walked by there, they were playing music that had nothing to do with the Beatles or John Lennon. Oh my gosh, look at green trees. Full green trees. What's wrong with these guys? Okay, let's keep an eye on that plaque. Keep an eye out for that plaque. I hope it's not on the ground. So this area here is usually full with pedestrian tourists and vendors and musicians. The plaque in the middle there is the Imagine plaque, and there's usually flowers on it, which is quite cool. Trying to figure out where that plaque would be. Yeah, there's a lot of greenery out here. You might be able to see, I want to rock and roll all night and party every day. I think that's how the Navalny, dedicated Navalny bench is up on 96th Street. I have no idea where that plaque would be. I mean, it can't be small because it's 120 countries, organizations. I wonder if it's on the ground somewhere, just with the snow. You can't find it. Which reminds me of last week when I went to go look at the memorial for the 6 million Jews killed in World War II in the concentration camps. I walked by it like 3 times before I realized it was right there. Oh boy, I don't think this is going to turn out that well at all. Well, it's allegedly over here somewhere. Do a little research and find out where it's at. I wouldn't mind seeing that. It's over here somewhere. That subway entrance closed over there? That'd be weird. Let's go for a walk down the subway. I mean, like, I don't think that snow is going to melt by tomorrow. Some of it will, but might be a little too icy. Icy at its core. Yeah, this is the entrance to the Dakota building. I thought it'd be up till 8 o'clock today. I don't think that's going to happen. It's a terrible photo. I was really thinking like the outside of it would be a little bit darker. I think I'm kind of in that mid-morning light, mid-early morning light. I forgot that I didn't have dinner last night. I did that early morning Amazon delivery. And forgot to have breakfast this morning. Yeah, I think I'm starting to feel it. I don't mind that shot. I just feel like it's like totally blown out. Maybe I can get it with the light. No. There we go. That look a little better. I don't know if it's going to show or not, but I like the light coming off of that building. If I can get that smoke stuff coming out of that pipe like that. So, anytime you can get a yellow cab in a picture, that's aces.
You went into the doctor with the kids?
So maybe a quick update on Alex, the new, or my new product to help folks with decision making before execution. No big updates this week. Probably more a review of the content that I've created to date, the supporting content, FAQs, license materials, charters, those kinds of things. I kind of want that photo. Yeah, so a lot of like more like structural changes. I did some stress testing on messaging pricing plans, more advisory type of stuff. I did send out a handful of messages this week just to test some positioning. Yeah, generally I think it went well. Today's the 28th of February. But tomorrow being the 1st of March, that's probably when I'll start in earnest launching it to, family, friends, colleagues, more of like that professional community that I'm pretty close with. And can I get that? Wow, I can smell those bagels all the way from here. There's a bagel shop on the corner up here on the left. Yeah. I thought maybe I could get that person walking their dog as they went across the street and capture them kind of like mid-walk. It seemed like it would take a little while. Nice, I'll be able to do that. Yeah, like you're right, like Tiny, I could sit in the middle of the street and do it. However, I don't think that timing's gonna work out. They're also taking their time, as they should. Actually, if they keep on moving here, this might work out pretty well. Another good one if I had the long lens. Yeah, pop-up bagels. It's usually pretty full or pretty busy. Yeah, sometimes people sleep in on weekends. This is about here. Yeah, another good long lens. Those there's kind of like 3 water towers back there. I wouldn't mind getting. Get the light off of the red of that building there. Maybe even a little of the yellow next to it. Try to get this tree out of the way. Yeah, can we do that dark red? There's definitely too many photos of that one building. Ooh, St. Remo showing off this morning. quite sure how I get this. So what I wanted, this guy here. You get so focused on the picture, my glasses fog up. You get that open sign from the other side. The other good one was this. Look how green that tree is. There's like a little mist coming off of. I don't know what that's coming off of. Yeah, that open sign's only on one side.